What's going on, everybody? It is Super Week. The Super Bowl, it started. I know everybody's going to start kicking it off on Monday, but it's a week from today. The festivities are going to start kicking off. And we wanted to jump ahead of the conversation. So this is almost like a attachment to see you Sunday, because we will see you next Sunday for the Super Bowl. It is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the San Francisco 49ers. But before we get into any of that, I am Mo Murphy, host of Upper Flames podcast. And with me, I got the other VP of the Off the Ball Network, Jeff from Jeff Needs Sports. And Jeff does everything else that you need, always comes through in the clutch as a guest. Jeff, what's going on, bro?
Not much, man. Excited to be here. This is my fifth Super Week broadcasting already. I can't believe how time's gone. I'm glad to kick it off the Off the Ball Network. We're gonna have a bunch of fun stuff going this week. I know me and you's going to get into it. I think we were the appropriate guys to kick this off. Like, we're the Thursday night opening NFL game for Super Week. You know what I mean? Like, great matchup. You're predicting. You got two playoff teams. Like, we're playoff podcasters. So I think the network did the right thing by letting us kick this thing off. But I know that we got a lot of fun stuff happening this week.
Oh yeah, and this is definitely this is a great way to close out the season. God, it's Super Bowl week though.
I can't believe it.
Think about it. Like, it's the season's almost over. The last football game of the season is about to be played a week from today. At this point, we'll probably be 10 beers deep this time next week. Continuing to drink until kickoff. I mean, it's going to be those kind of days. It always is, as far as when the Super Bowl happens.
Do you
off on Monday? So
do you partake? Yeah, me too. I got hangover Monday off also. I'm going over to a good friend, going over to Boomy's house. Anybody knows me, knows my my show. They know Boomy. Are you a partaker in like the pregame like talk? Like, do you have it on all day? Do you listen, or do you tune in? Like, I'll have it on in the morning, but then they start babbling the same stuff that they've been saying all year. Like, here's what they're going to say at noon next Sunday. You gotta find a way to stop Mahomes. You gotta take away this, and we know. Do you partake in a lot of that? I kind of usually do a bunch of different stuff all day to keep my mind off of it, and then all of a sudden just turn it on at like kickoff.
That's pretty much what I do. Typically I wake up. Oh, did I go missing for a second? Okay. Typically I wake up and I'll watch a little bit in the morning, and then I'll kind of get my day started. I don't usually do too much, but I'll play the game. I'll just watch TV and just not watch anything about football the entire day.
That's how I am.
Because I don't really, by now, I don't care. We done heard it all. Brock Purdy has to win this game to prove he's a dude, which I'm sure we'll talk about. It's going to be the same thing that they've talked about each week when these teams won and got closer to the Super Bowl. You start talking about what they need to do to win the Super Bowl, win this game, and then this. And so we've already heard all the narratives about the teams anyway. I think both of them have put them to rest. Essentially, they're here. So any narrative that you had against them, they're both here right now. So I guess the pressure's on for both teams, though.
I like that take on it, because that's how I feel. I apologize. I ran some electric the other day and didn't realize it was in the background. That's on me, folks. That's on me. Anyway, that's not a snake attacking me. That's just a electric wire. But I kind of feel that way too. I think that's a great point to bring up, because once you get to this, all the planning's done, everything you did, everything you practiced on, your scheming, everything that you did all season was to get to this point. But the Super Bowl is a different animal. It is play by play, change what you do, who can adapt, who can improvise, who can adjust, the quickest. Let's, for instance, last year, there was a lot of talk about Philadelphia's defense needed to make adjustments. And I kept telling everybody, go back and watch the All-22. The only adjustments they could have made at halftime was to trade their safeties for better ones. That was it. The story of that game last year was our safeties got cooked by Mahomes and Kelsey. End of story. It was not more complicated than that if you go back and watch. Everybody else did a great job. Philadelphia did great. But they schemed against the safeties. Andy Reid took advantage of it, and they got them. You know what I mean? And that was the story of the game. So it's right now, as the coaches are going through every mismatch, every matchup weakness. Where do they see, where do they see the tiniest crack in either team's defense and all these things? It's really completely different than what they've did all season. Ain't either one of these teams going to if you line up and do what you did all season, you're going to get beat, because the other team has got 20 weeks of tape on it. That's what I like about the Super Bowl. Like it can look so different than the teams did the rest of the season.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. All right. How much do you think Andy Reid is preparing this week for the Super Bowl? And I don't mean that in I don't think he comes ill prepared.
Yeah.
But I used to ask the same thing about Bill Belichick. Like, what does this week look like for a guy who's been there, done that, who's used to this? He knows what this week consists of, right? Like, he knows what the 2 weeks after winning the conference championship is. And so I feel like they prepare different. Like, I feel like at this week, it's like, I'll deal with the media frenzy and all that, but it's not distracting me because I'm already ready to go.
Right.
Like, I've already got the team ready to go. We've already went over the game plan. Like, now is more just do the media stuff and just continue to be prepared and do what we do. But we already know what we want to do this week.
I think my guess is with Reed because he's got 15 back there. My guess is that it's like just like I think it's gonna be a lot like we saw against Baltimore last week. They had the perfect game plan for the first 2 drives against Baltimore. They essentially determined what Baltimore was going to do on defense and then countered it, but they were a step ahead. It's going to be the same thing. San Francisco's defense, like as good as it is not a super complicated defense. San Francisco's defense is we have a bunch of great players. Good luck, beating us man to man, and good luck getting out of tackles, which is there's nothing wrong with having the players, but it's not super complicated. It's not blitz heavy. Against Mahomes, it's not gonna be like that Tampa Bay team that Kansas City saw, a few years ago. It ain't gonna look like that. Like San Francisco is gonna line up and say, we're gonna hit you if you get the ball. We're gonna try to attack you. I would imagine, it's all about like the middle of the field's going to look different with Fred Warner and them boys out there for Travis Kelce. It ain't going to look the same as it did last week. So I'd imagine this week about Reed is like him getting with his star players, especially Mahomes, and saying, what do you like? What do you see? Because at this point in Mahomes' career, like he's like, we keep comparing him to Jordan or LeBron, whoever you want to compare him to. Like he sees the game. He's seeing the game at a speed and a difference right now, and he knows what he feels. And like I saw it last week, man, when there was a couple 4th down plays for Kansas City. They didn't blink. They didn't hesitate. They didn't do anything dumb. They just ran a play that they knew they could get. Mahomes made perfect throws, ended the game. So I think it's all going to be like, what do you feel comfortable with doing? I think in that Tampa Bay game, they got out of themselves and tried to play it one way, and Tampa Bay, countered it. I don't think it'll be like that. I think this one is going to be like, what do you feel comfortable with against this 49ers defense? But the advantage that the Chiefs have is they can change the whole game plan on a dime because 15 can do whatever you want. He'll hand the ball off 30 times in a row if that wins the game. He don't care. Or he'll throw it 30 times in a row. He don't care. So you have a huge advantage when you have that guy back there as far as game planning, as opposed to the 49ers. Going to have to be pretty specific with Purdy being his first Super Bowl and only his 2nd year in the league.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And that kind of leads up into what I wanted to talk about with both teams, which is what the Super Bowl, what a win or loss means for either team. So I kind of want to start with San Francisco. So in my opinion, there's a million different ways you can look at this in a win or a loss. It's all about how the game is played. But in a loss, everything will be magnified. Obviously, it always is when you don't win. But even in a win, it's like the things that would be magnified in a loss, you'll gripe over, but like you kind of know, man, if we're trying to, when you win, the next goal is to repeat. So you start to look at where your weaknesses was, where can we improve? And then you'd be like, man, it doesn't look right. Like Christian McCaffrey ran for 150 yards. Our defense played absolutely amazing. Shut down Patrick Mahomes. Kelce had his first bad Super Bowl performance. Isaiah Pacheco couldn't get it going. Like that starts to become the storyline. You're like, we won, but like everybody else fell short of their goals. So they are all going to get better. We got the target on our back, and we have to be repeat champions. We know that's one of the hardest things to do is go back to back, especially Super Bowls. Like Super Bowls are one of the hardest things to go back to back on. There's not a lot of teams. There's not a long list of teams that have done it in history for you to say like it's common. It's like maybe one team every era can win back-to-back Super Bowls. So it's like but you won, so you don't care as much, and that could be like the downfall of like the possibility of how good your team can be next
Well,
year.
we thought that happened. We thought that happened to the Chiefs this year, didn't we? For about 8 weeks.
Yeah, but the difference with the Chiefs was at the end of the day, they got 15 and Andy Reid, and so like we'll talk about them in a second, but like San Francisco wins. Like what does a win mean for San Francisco? Because there's a lot. Like a win means a lot. It stamps a lot of careers and a lot of doubters.
Yep. It validates so many careers because this team has played so good for so long. Like this team was in it. Like a lot of these players were in that first Super Bowl versus the Chiefs, 3 years ago now? Mm-hmm. A lot of these guys are still there. I think there's a good bit of the roster. You got guys like Fred Warner. This would elevate him to an absolute Hall of Fame all-time linebacker, even though he is. We know what winning that one championship means to players like that. Obviously, Shanahan's going to be, the biggest upside because he can finally get, the critics, the monkey, everything, the city of San Francisco, the failed Super Bowls in the past, all that off his back, his daddy's name, all that, like, as far as coaches go, like kind of like Andy Reid did when he finally won his first one with Kansas City. And then you got the Brock Purdy thing. This guy's trying to we got to hear every week, that he's a 7th round draft pick and, he deserves to be in. Here's the thing about Brock Purdy. It's one of these false narratives. Hey, nobody's saying Brock Purdy shouldn't be a quarterback, San Francisco 49ers, except the San Francisco 49ers keep telling us we're saying it. Ain't none of us saying it. We don't care when he was drafted. We're not comparing him to Tom Brady, but we're saying he's good enough to be a quarterback. But still, that's part of the narrative. But also, even though quarterbacks aren't on the field at the same time, if you're Brock Purdy and you stare down 15, that's different. Like there's something different. In your second season, you win a Super Bowl. That's ginormous. That means you're getting paid. That means you're the face.
Like Mahomes won the Super Bowl third year, but second year as a starter.
Launches you. You become the face of a franchise. You become one of the faces of the league, whether you like it or not. Like all these things happen if you win that Super Bowl. Then what happens after that? But then, like you said, then it's about repeating. The first question is, how many can they win? How good can it be? How many times in a row? All that, so a win would validate. I hate to say validate, but that's the word. A lot of great careers that we've seen, like Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Trent, all these guys on the 49ers that have played so well for so long. Validates that, plus the coaching staff. It validates Shanahan's decision to go with Purdy and not Lance. Like, I don't think we're putting enough pressure on San Francisco in this game. I say this a lot. I think San Francisco has to win this Super Bowl. To be honest with you, I don't believe that there's an option for them to go home without a win after what they've been building towards.
What's crazy is I love how in all that, and I was waiting for it, and I was hoping, I was like, okay, he's going to keep talking. So dang, I ain't going to be able to point it out. Oh, he keeps talking. He's not saying it. He's not. This is literally, I'm listening to you. I hear everything you're saying. I'm listening deep because I'm waiting for you to say a certain name. And you didn't say him. And you went through a list of names of like all these great careers, and you Trent Williams and Fred Warner and George Kittle and Nick Bosa, and tells me what it means for Brock Purdy, the coaching staff, and Shanahan. I think this puts Christian McCaffrey as a Hall of Fame running back if they win this Super Bowl.
The other thing, I let it off a little because I was referring to the guys that have been there the longest, and went like McCaffrey kind of walked into this halfway through last season. But
he walked into it and he walked into it. He made the biggest difference on the offensive side of the ball. He's the most important player on that team, and on top of that, think about this, Jeff, and this is something that
he's a running back.
and that's where I'm going with it. And I'm saying that because who's the last all-time great running back? All-time great, like an all-time great to win a Super Bowl.
I can't think of it. Emmitt Smith?
Emmitt. Like that's what Emmitt.
It's Emmitt Smith, right?
Yes. Adrian Peterson never, and I'm talking about those generational like
Tomlinson, Peterson, Sanders. Marshall Faulk. Marshall Faulk's your answer.
Yeah. There you go.
That's the last one.
Marshall Faulk.
1999.
That's it. Like So you haven't, and we know how good, like throughout the years, how good these running backs have been. We've seen some amazing seasons. Even some of the guys that had like 2-year peaks, like Arian Foster, like these dudes were monsters. Like we've seen running backs, like so many great running backs that you'd be like, dang, and none of them win championships. And if they did, if somebody did and we forgot, it was probably like backup running back on the back end.
Well, James White has been the most successful Super Bowl running back over the last 2 decades.
Which is like great, but like it's because he's a solid role player that knows his role on the team and he's always there. Like he's always there, he's always available, he's always ready to go. He knows his role on the team. And I mean, shoot, he kind of everybody talks about a lot of the other plays. He played great in that Falcons game. Yeah, like didn't he win
MVP?
He won Super Bowl MVP that game, right?
Yeah, he sure did. Scored 3 touchdowns, I think.
Yeah, and he had over 100 something. He had almost 200 yards.
Balled out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I swear he won. So it was that one or the one before that. But yeah, I mean, but I think this would be a big stamp for Christian McCaffrey. And
Marshawn Lynch. We forgot about Marshawn Lynch.
Is he all-time great?
No, he's not. He ain't Marshall Faulk. He ain't McCaffrey.
Like we love him. Like
he's really good.
He is really good, and he did kind of carry that offense essentially. And then the Legion of Boom, they get a little more credit. Well, I don't think like San Francisco's defense isn't Legion of Boom. Like this defense is not carrying this team. This offense is playing dang good. Brock Purdy is playing dang good. They weapons are showing up and playing, especially in the playoffs. George Kittle is playing amazing. Debo looks healthy. He's ready to go, and they don't have to use him like that. Ayuk is ready to go. That man can play. Like they got football players on this side. They dumped McCaffrey in there. And we know how dynamic of a running back he was in Carolina. He was just playing meaningless football. So now we get to see the impact of that rare talent, that generational type running back of Christian McCaffrey.
That's true, man. That's
like playing winning football.
We haven't looked
like playing. We haven't seen these guys really like Adrian Peterson play for some good Vikings teams, but not this. Like you didn't see them winning a Super Bowl. You didn't think not this talented on both sides of the ball. So like now you get to see what that elite talent of a running back looks like playing winning football, and it looks a little different.
That's a great point,
like
man.
He's doing something that we're not used to seeing, but like that you put Adrian Peterson on the San Francisco 49ers, he'd do the same thing. But it's that because it's so generational, we don't get to see a lot of these generational running backs this deep into the playoffs 2 years in a row. On top of that, playing the way he's playing. Like he's playing the way he's playing 2 years in a row, this deep into the playoffs. NFC Championship and a Super Bowl in back-to-back years. Like that's how
crazy.
long you watch this guy kind of carry an offense. And I'm not saying that like Brock Purdy's not doing his part. I'm just saying like Christian McCaffrey, if you told me he wasn't playing this game, I don't think people would give San Francisco a chance. That's how important it is.
I like that point. I hadn't thought about this is the most important running back's been going into a game. I would say even over Marshall Faulk because of that Rams offense. If Faulk couldn't be in there, like I still would have gave him a fighting chance. But that's a great point, man. And I was watching McCaffrey. I'm watching some of the tape on him this week. He is such an interesting running back. He reminds me probably more of LT than anybody because he runs between the tackles, but he doesn't run in a straight line, but he still runs between the tackles. Like he makes 2 or 3 moves inside the tackle box, to get all those touchdowns and that short yardage stuff. He doesn't really, but he never has like a head of steam going forward. He's a very interesting running back. Like it's really fun to watch what he does in short yardage to where like he's like evading people in a phone booth, but yet he still gets the power rushing yards. You know what I mean? He gets that short yardage stuff. He just does it a little different. Like I say, LT is what it kind of reminds me of, from you guys, anybody remembers watching him for the San Diego Chargers back in the day, but that's a great point. And this would be a big deal. And I think that if you tell me the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl, McCaffrey's going to be a big part of it. I mean, I think that just goes without saying. That's an easy one.
And he possibly wins Super Bowl MVP. Like it's very possible. And it's crazy.
He more than likely will if they win.
But it's crazy. The last running back that won it was James White recently. Like in recent memory. Like, and you're like, well, if you took a guess, you'd be like, man, I don't even know. Like, I can't think of the elite ones that got there and got an opportunity. So now I want to talk about the Kansas City side of things. I hate saying this about a team, but if they lose, like then they lose. Now, if they get whooped, like yes, you can say a lot of things. I mean, now Mahomes will be 2-2, so the front running for the GOAT argument looks a little bit different than it will at 3-1, moving on as the best player in football. Like, yes, it does. It changes some conversations, but it doesn't really take away the greatness of Andy Reid or Mahomes or Travis Kelce's career. Like, they do have two of them. Like, a lot of the guys that have been there for this run, the Chris Jones and they all they got two of them. So, like, they're not sitting here. If they lose, now if they get whooped and you're like, oh man, you just be surprised, or it'd be a testament to how good this San Francisco team is if they play their A+ football. But if they win, like, the bigger thing around Kansas City is if they win. Because, like, San Francisco may get crucified if they lose. Like, in the same breath as we're talking about, if Kansas City wins, what it does for Mahomes now has 3. Mahomes won when he wasn't supposed to. Like, nobody thought he would. Nobody, barely won his division. If he wasn't in a weaker division, probably wouldn't have won his division. Wins his division, wins his games on the road, wins his first game at home, 2 games on the road, done everything that we haven't seen him do. Like, he hasn't had to play a road game on the playoffs. Okay, he does that, wins. Now he has to do it in the AFC Championship. They're not hosting the AFC Championship for the first time since he's been a starter. Okay, guess what? He does that. Now he's back in the Super Bowl. So in a year, that's where greats become greats. Like, dang, we doubted them, and then boom, like Michael Jordan and LeBron and Brady and all those greats, like the Venus and Serena. We just go down the list of greats. They all showed us why they were great, because there was that moment in their career or season or whatever it was. But I don't even think they can get it done, and they got it done. And that's where you're like, yep, that's what separates them. And so that's what I think would happen for the Kansas City Chiefs if Patrick Mahomes and them are able to win the Super Bowl. Is like, it changes him into a different type of greatness. I think you really start to understand that you having the GOAT conversation and you take it a lot more serious. I mean, this dude got 3. He's 3-1. So it's like he's got a winning record there. Like, he is 3-1. If he made it this year, why doubt that he would ever make it again? Like, and even still, at this point in his career, he would be 3-1. Let's say he never made it again. He's still
3-1
at this level, like, played at a great level and was in AFC championships, but never went back to a Super Bowl. He still would be 3-1. Like, this dude still has 3 championships. He's going to have a career full of, passing yards and everything. He's going to stack up to where the longevity, he might not play as long as Brady, but he's going to stack up where finally people will be like, okay, after 10 years, man, he might be the GOAT. He's done this every year for 10 years and blah, blah, blah. His resume just finally starts stacking up where you start projecting if he plays 15, if he plays 20, this is where he lines up at. So I think this is just big on the enhancement of legacies for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's like what a win does. I mean, Andy Reid now would have 3. Travis Kelce as a tight end with these playoff records, and him and Mahomes is like basically the best duo in the playoffs, together. It would be Jerry Rice. He had 2 different quarterbacks. I get that. But, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, the best duo as far as they done passed everything. So it's like, outside of winning, I think Brady and Gronk got 4 championships together.
I believe so.
So if they get 3, you're still like, okay, they don't outdo them in the championship department, but statistically as a duo and in playoff performance games, they've outdone them. So it'd be like, I don't know. It just enhances these guys into, like, we entertain the greatest quarterback of all time. We throw Andy Reid in that top 2 to 3, probably the greatest head coaches of all time, possibly. It's not like he's not a winning coach prior to this Kansas City run. He's been in the Super Bowl. He's been in the NFC championships with the Eagles. So, like, he's had a lot of success. He's just never had the ultimate success. He gets his 3rd. You talk about him different. Travis Kelce get his 3rd. Greatest tight end of all time. Conversation starts, sounding a lot different. So I don't know. It's just like, if they win, I guess it's just more legacy talk.
It's definitely a legacy game for everything you just said. It definitely, this is a Mahomes game. Like, this game is about the future of Mahomes. Just like I remember when Jordan got to this point, when Jordan came back off the mini retirement. I remember that first season, it was like, okay, if he wins this, then now we're talking, now he's up there. Because when Jordan retired after the first three-peat, it was a lot like we're talking about Mahomes now. Like, we're sure he's the greatest of all time, probably, but a lot of the numbers and the overall, the time and, the long-term records and the championships and all that. When Jordan came back and won that one in, 96, it was like, oh, okay, now he's Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Bill Russell level Jordan. So, and the thing about Mahomes too, I think what you have on the line is the future. Like you said it, if you never get back, well, guess what? Like Aaron Rodgers won and it was like, I'm going to win 10 more. Nope. Dan Marino went to a Super Bowl. Oh, definitely going to win a couple. Nope. Never went back. And like, I know that Mahomes will have this, but Mahomes doesn't want to leave this 2-2. And then next year he goes into a season playing Burrow, Lamar, Allen, Stroud now, a well-coached, well-coached Chargers team now in your division.
Trevor Lawrence.
The Raiders are spunky. Like there ain't no, it's going to be tough just to go through. And these quarterbacks are young. So Mahomes has 8 quarterbacks to go through over the rest of his career.
The Broncos are trying to get their quarterback of the future. And I think, as far as head coach goes, Sean Payton, I would trust that he has the eye to be able to kind of figure that out. Obviously, they want Caleb Williams, but who doesn't want Caleb Williams if you feel like you need an upgraded quarterback? Right. Not everybody could get that real hefty.
And again, Mahomes got to go through these guys the rest of his career, like one of them, at least 1 or 2 a year. And not that he can't, but I'm saying it's not easy. Like if you told me they go 5 years without going back to the Super Bowl, but Mahomes is still playing great, I believe you. I believe Burrow could go to 1. I believe, Herbert could go to 1. I believe Stroud could sneak in, like all these kids, man. So like it means and 2-2 and 3-1 are a huge difference. I mean, nobody remembers, but after they won that second one, it was like almost 10 years. And everybody's like, oh, okay. They had a run. It was, it was a fad, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe it was after third one, whichever it was. And then they're like, maybe it's time to, the Patriots to move on. This stuff we were talking about, like a 3-time winner. And then all of a sudden he goes on a run and wins another 3 of them. And, the rest is, legendary history. But like, I think this does mean the organization, obviously you always want to win one, but I think as an organization, if they lose, you're like, man, lost the Super Bowl, but we're good. We got to, I think for Mahomes and like Chris Jones, I think it's a big one for him. I think this could be his, overtake Aaron Donald game, like I've been saying for a couple years, but this could be the one to where like, I think there's a real chance that Chris Jones could be the MVP of this Super Bowl. From what I've seen, what I see him do to Lamar last week, I think it's a bad matchup for Purdy. So I like that. I like that matchup. So like, yeah, it's a legacy game. The downside isn't as far for Kansas City. The upside is stratosphere. Like that puts Mahomes into another stratosphere.
I think a win could be more damaging to Kansas City than a loss, though.
Okay.
I think if they win, listen to me. If they win,
I'm listening.
I think, man, Andy Reid and Travis Kelce
they're both gone, ain't they?
Call it quits. Like, and you've heard rumblings, but I'm gonna be honest. Like with the
ain't gonna matter with 15 back here. Ain't gonna matter.
The Travis Kelce situation. The only reason why I think it's possible, it's like his brother really contemplated it. Like, not down to the wire. He had plenty of time, but like he really contemplated and was like, I need to make my decision now. And like either I'm gonna play or I'm not, but I need to make it now. I'm not about to drag this out. Either I'm gonna play or I'm not, but I need to know how to attack this offseason. Like that's how I felt like he treated it. Was like either I'm just gonna be on the couch and enjoy my time at home, or I'm gonna do like a normal offseason and vacation and stay in the gym. And
Kelce got his decisions are a little different to make right now. I've never personally dated a billionaire, but I gotta say that probably steers some decisions in life.
Yeah, and that too. Like without having,
I dated a nurse, and that allowed me some levity. That allowed me to make some life choices. I can't.
Yeah, so, we were talking a billionaire, and then you got you producing your own podcast with your brother. Like you kind of going on a tour with that and talking to people and being guest everywhere. So your face is everywhere. Everybody want to talk to you. So like you have endeavors after football. Like you're more than just. You're not gonna fall off the face of the earth if he retired. But like it's Travis Kelce been really banged up this year. He been playing hurt all year.
He looked good last week, but he ain't.
He's been hurt like all year. Like he ain't got
one more in him.
He doesn't. He seems like he'll be able to muster up one more season in a loss because he doesn't want to go out like that. And he has won 2 of them, and they have been there. 4 times. So like, dang, I would love to get there. I think we could get there one more time. I think they could have a run it back year in a revenge tour of not being able to win it and coming back stronger and better and actually being the favorites coming in, which I think would make the Chiefs look a little different. But I think if they win, it's like, man, what else I got to do? like unless you're chasing like the all-time, and you're not going to catch Tony Gonzalez as far as all-time receiving yards for a tight end. Like you're not going to catch him. He's so far ahead of everybody. You're not catching him. You're nowhere close. And you've had 1,000-yard seasons every year in your career, and you're not going to catch him. So it's like, what are you chasing? Like I've won 3 Super Bowls. I've been Mr. Consistent. My playoff numbers speak for itself. Like I'm a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. Consider, if not the greatest tight end of all time, one of. Like, what else can I do to continue this at the expense of what my body just went through this past year? Because he looked like he was hurt majority of the year and finally got healthy.
He might have just been tired, dog. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, like
that's all I'm saying.
But he was banged up. He was like the whole Taylor Swift thing. Like he started like old. He looked old.
Yeah, he getting those hip injuries and lower legs banged up. I was happy to see him as healthy as he was these playoffs, like how he's maintained it. But yeah, you're right. He just there ain't another year of this. And plus, what happens, and we saw this with the Ravens. What happens too if you stick with that? Like that's great, but if you try to fight through a season with Kelsey as your starting tight end, like you're hurting the offense. Get one of these young bloods in there and let them go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like if you're gonna do that, go the route of getting one of the young tight ends.
What would they look like? What would the Chiefs look like if they traded for the kid in Atlanta, that tight end that they don't know how to use?
Kyle Pitts.
I mean, is he right? He's a star right away, right?
Him and Kelsey and Pitts, you can line up, put him in the slot. Like you could do a lot of things with Pitts. You can line him up out wide as a wide receiver. Like there's a lot of things you could have did with it. And Andy Reid,
those guys are out there.
You know what to do with talent. Like sometimes he takes these gambles on these gadget guys, the Sky Moores and stuff, and you think like because he's taking that, he's had the Deshaun Jackson, and I think like Andy Reid looks for his next Deshaun Jackson a lot of times, and sometimes you just got to.
Aren't we all?
I'm saying like he looks at Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, and they have similar archetypes, especially the way they were used in college. That like, man, I could get that guy and I could use him like I used Deshaun Jackson. Sometimes you just have to understand that, like, look, when you had that man, you had the cream of the crop. Some of these guys just ain't ever. Sometimes you just have to go get the guy you know is going to be a guy instead of trying to get the next Deshaun. Just go get the guy that you know is going to be a guy. Go trade for Kyle Pitts. Go get one of these top-notch wide receivers. Stop trying to find a gym at some point. Like you got one in Rasheed Rice.
Oh, they definitely going to get one this year.
Stop trying to like. At some point, you gotta stop trying to outsmart everybody and try and lack talent and just like, bro, just draft the best.
Yeah, that killed Belichick, right? It killed Belichick by thinking he could do it.
Talented team on the field and go play football. Like, just go put the most talent. Go be the 49ers and just go put the most talented team. I'll
hold it till after the season. We'll talk about the future of the Chiefs. But I got like I like how they built. You know what? This does pertain to it. Love how they rebuilt this defense after the Tampa Bay Super Bowl. They're like, you need a defense, you need an offensive line. They rebuild them both, and they sacrifice on the wide receiver because they're like Mahomes. Like, I think you can get us through this, and it's worked so far.
Quarterback,
but this defense, they play nasty. Like, this is a good young defensive backfield. Like these guys, young. You got Chris Jones, Karlaftis, man, great draft pick. Balling out him, and so I like what they did. I think that was the best thing they could do for Mahomes is build this type of defense that they can get mistakes. They finally got a defense that can make mistakes. You know, the other team, they can blitz a little bit. They fight. They're nasty. They can tackle. They're not going to go out there and get out physical by San Francisco like most teams do. If anything, if I'm Kansas City now, I think, but I just watch that Ravens game and like what they do because they did everything perfect against 49ers. 49ers had no answer. You know what I mean? It reminded me of like when Holyfield used to fight Tyson. You're like, this is going to be an even match, but Holyfield knew exactly how to fight Tyson, went in there and beat that dude up and got out of there. Like all that crap about, dangerous man and all that, it don't matter if the other guy knows that every counter punch and every way to attack you. And I think that's a situation we have here.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, like, because now I just got to think about this. Okay,
it's not about Kelsey's new haircut, is it?
No,
that's not burning up the internet.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna just leave that. I'm gonna leave that.
We're gonna touch on it later this week because it's I was on fire.
Yeah, I'm not going that route. So my thing is, do Kansas City? Okay, if Kansas City if they win, what's their biggest need in the offseason in your opinion? What do they need to address more than anything?
Oh, it's 100% receiver, like
So
1,000%
so
receivers.
so whether okay, if they do it through the draft, cool. But like this guy is still young, and at the end of the day, you hope like you're not getting Marvin Harrison Jr.
No,
You're not getting Malik Neighbors more than likely,
no.
and you're probably not getting Keon Coleman. Those are the three guys I think step on and like they're day one ready starters. So
But you
outside
can get
you could get an extreme talent, but my thing is if Kansas City wins and they want to address, let's say they want to go get T. Higgins or they want to trade for Stephon Diggs or, just any guy available. Justin Jefferson becomes available because he don't want to stay and they try and franchise tag him in Minnesota. Like just in those hypotheticals. But if like I'm that star type wide receiver, if they win, why am I going to Kansas City? Like why I'm trying to show how valuable the wide receiver position is, and I'm trying to help a team. I'm trying to be the difference. They're prima
you're
donnas. They act like superstars in the league. They act
you're
like
right. You don't want to be Kevin Durant going to Golden State.
exactly. And so they might be like, man, they said they needed receivers. They still ended up winning. So like those wide receivers, they think like the superstars in the league. Like, I want to be the difference maker. I want the praise. Like when I come over there, they won. They couldn't get it done, but now that I'm here, the offense looks great, and now we're winning, or now we won a championship.
Yeah.
So I think, but in a loss, I think it's like you start to. If I'm a wide receiver, I'm like, okay, hey, if I'm a free agent, call me, or hey, if I'm trying to get out traded, I put my list of destinations, Kansas City on one of them. Hey, come do business with the team I'm on because I could be the difference in you winning or losing that game. And I think y'all will have the team to get back there. And with me on this team, we win that game, not lose that game. Wide receivers think like that.
I'd also look at it this way. You're right. You're right about everything you said, but I also look at it the other way. This isn't a team that's like, this isn't like the Rams of a couple years ago to where it's like this season, we know that's this season and the next year we have no idea. I look at it the other way. Just erase history from the end of this Super Bowl and go back and say, I'm going to a team with Patrick Mahomes under 30 years old. I might win 3 Super Bowls and not worry about, and do the opposite, not even worry about what happened this year. Just be like, this is the best situation for me to be in, not to win 1, but to win 3. And you definitely know you're competing. That's the thing. If you go to one of these teams, with one of these quarterbacks, you're going to have a chance to compete for it. It's not an if, it's a you definitely are, outside of, injuries or whatever. So I do think that they could snag a vet like that. I would hope that Patrick can sift through like who wants to be there and who doesn't. And you can snag. I mean, look what Baltimore did with getting Flowers, in the draft. I mean, he's a day one starter and was the key to their offense for an entire season and should have got him to a Super Bowl if, outside of some rookie decisions. So it's like, it's that easy to grab one of these dudes. And I think they got a better judge of talent than like we saw. New England couldn't do it, but they were knuckleheads about how they drafted receivers. Like, I think that you can draft a couple offensive weapons and then go get somebody in free agency, and then you've got a top tier offense for another 5 years. I don't think it'll be that difficult, only because they built a young defense. That was the smartest thing they did.
I just think having a premier wide receiver is just doing yourself a service to your quarterback. Like,
it's got to be the right guy though.
And you saw it. Like, here's my thing is this is where I think you need to get it now and address it. Andy Reid ain't always going to be there.
Right.
Which therefore means Patrick Mahomes ain't always going to put up with not his demands not being met. It's easy to put up, and I'm not saying his demands aren't being met. I don't want to throw that out there. I'm just saying you see it in quarterbacks all the time. No, the older I get, the little more help I need at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I'm still all-time great, but Brady, I need some help. Like, I'm still the greatest quarterback to ever do it, but like, and then he went to the Bucks and he was like, where can I go? And they already got the talent in place. They just need a quarterback upgrade. They need me, and I can do it there. And he goes, he's Mike Evans, Chris Godwin.
And the receivers were built. So
goes gets Antonio Brown and Leonard Fournette. Like, so the Bucks were like, we are going to give you everything you ask for and more. And all those guys contributed. We ain't got Gronk as well. All those guys contributed to them winning that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But like, his demands were met. He knew he had that leverage by going to Tampa. Like, if I come here, I want all my demands to be met. But like, Mahomes could just have no demands and sit back, and he's just, I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to let everybody else do their job right now because they're winning. He trusts Andy Reid. He trusts the front office. But when that head coach, quarterback, and front office is good and they're winning, it's great. But when you pull Andy Reid out of it, put another head coach in it, they way ain't working. But like, I can make this work if you meet my demands, and you don't. Like, you start to get tired of it, but you're not losing right now, so it does. You'll never even hear about it. I doubt he even has demands right now.
I'll tell you another downside to look at when we were talking about the winners and the losers. You know, and your scenario really gets highlighted. Let's say Kansas City loses this game, and let's say it's because the wide receivers either couldn't get open, drop balls, couldn't like. Let's say we're going to blame it on the receivers. Like a lot of games this year, like, you know, he was throwing it off guys' helmets and stuff that they just couldn't make the play. If that's the reason they lose this game, now your conversation really comes into play of like, you need to get like T. Higgins needs to be on that team tomorrow. Justin Jefferson needs to be on that team tomorrow. Like what was it'll remind me a lot of like, hey, Andy Reid's done this before when he went and got T.O. The same exact issue. He was like, I got a quarterback. I'm missing one piece. And they went and got at that point, the best wide receiver in the league. And it almost paid off. Like Reid's been down this road.
And went to the Super Bowl. And I'm going to be honest, even though he had over 100 yards, if T.O. did not have a broken leg.
Oh, definitely the broken leg slowed him down.
I'm going to be honest. If T.O. did not have a broken leg in that game, I think Philly wins, and T.O. has the greatest performance of a wide receiver. He got over 100 yards on a broken leg.
Yeah.
Like, so if he was cooking them. If he was fully healthy.
Absolutely. So
220
and you get Mahomes a guy that like a wide receiver that can take over a game like that. I don't know who that is. Because here's the thing about some of these guys, I don't know if they fit as well as people think. Like, I don't think Tyreek Hill was the best match for Mahomes. I think Mahomes could take advantage of it, but I don't think that was the best match for Mahomes. But also, I don't. I think so. I mean, I think Jefferson and anybody is the best match. But yeah, you got to have a guy that runs a lot of routes because that's how this offense works. It's you run what's going to get you open. It's not necessarily everybody running the same routes, not being on the same side of the field. Like, it's not a bunch. It's sort of complex, but you also know
this is an IQ offense, and everybody.
Yeah, there you go. And you're always open because you got Mahomes.
Yeah,
like that's the difference.
Everybody got to be on the same page, though. Like, everybody got to understand 100%. The possibilities. It's like they're all running option routes, but you have to understand that, like, from what I'm seeing, I'm gonna run this. You run that.
Mahomes will start. We'll see what happens. Like, in a scenario to where he loses this, he'll start getting old man grumpy real quick. Like, you watch I compare him most to NBA players because that's just how he sees the game. And like, I know there was times like if you take like an older Jordan or LeBron as he aged and like the young guys weren't doing their job, like they would do shit like pass the ball to space just to prove that like you were in the wrong spot, or they would be chewing your ass out up and down the court. Like, Mahomes ain't far from getting old man football age to where he ain't gonna put up with all this. Like, Tom Brady got there for a decade, just an old grumpy bastard for a decade. Mahomes ain't that far away because he's going to understand, like, you know, I've done this. I've got, we'll say 7 years left of being the best player on the planet. You ain't wasting my career, Rook. You ain't wasting my career.
Is that's like the thing that I think could even, if it get to that point, it could scare, like, think about it. Everybody talk about, and I know the culture, like Andy Reid is not Bill Belichick when it comes to the type of coach he is. I think he got more personality, a little more different. You could tell based on his players. Look at the type of players, like, look how open and broad they are. Like, they celebrate. They understand the assignment, though. They don't lose focus, but they celebrate. They have fun with the Patriots. It was like, that Mamba mentality, the Kobe mindset, like, but we haven't finished the job.
They were miserable the whole time.
And everybody talks about it now, and they're like, man, I loved it, but God, I was, sometimes I would see the way other teams did it, and I just wish I could do it that way. And if it becomes that way, like, let's say post Mahomes Reed, and it's Mahomes and whoever his coach is, but because he is Patrick Mahomes, I got more of the say-so here. And now people are like, man, it's not. This dude's on a different mission than we are, and it's not the same. Like, I don't even know if he's playing for the love of it anymore. He's chasing Brady, and so he's putting a different type of focus as opposed to, I want to be the best receivers of all time, but I don't have to do what he does. I don't have to win 5 Super Bowls to do it. I don't have to be committed to winning and eat, sleep, and breathe without enjoying life. And if Mahomes gets to that point, I can run some people off of Kansas City too.
Who do you think? Like, let's say real quick, let's say that Reed leaves win or lose, whatever, he leaves. Like, is the next coach like obvious? Is it Bieniemy coming back? Is it Ben Johnson from Detroit? Is it somebody like that, or do you think it's going to be like? It feels like it's got to be like a guy that's been around and can talk to Mahomes. Like, it feels like it's whoever Mahomes wants to coach, not some not some hotshot college coach or something like that. I don't know.
You don't think you just upgrade Spagnuolo to head coach?
And just let the offensive coordinator do that?
Yep. From what he's done, like, and bring in a solid a young gun offensive coordinator and let him do that with Mahomes and just control the
defense. That's what Mahomes wants. That's fair. That's fair. Because Spagnuolo done a really good job with this team.
I think if, let's say, Reed retires, I don't think you could take a risk of disbarring this defense, because let's say you're trying to get some pieces, you attack it in the draft, and these guys are good, but they're not great yet because they're rooks or whatever. Like, they're young guys. It's your first round pick. He's good though. He's going to be a star, but he's not a star yet. This team can't play this style of offense and win if this defense isn't as good as it was. And so I can't take a chance of disbarring that because Andy Reid retired. I think I just upgrade Spags and,
so you think
young offensive coordinator route,
or they go get a Barry Switzer, just like, don't rock the boat. Just stand there and look pretty for 3 years. We'll get you a Super Bowl and then we'll figure it out. They could do something like that. Not mess anything up. It's just
you bring Spags in, and then you keep him, you upgrade him to head coach, and you bring the young hotshot offensive coordinator, and he's there for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And then he's going to be the next head coach, and him and Mahomes are going to ride off it to the sunset for his career. But we bring him in to groom him so that 2 years is the OC. Now we ride off the last 10 years of my career together as the head coach, and boom, like, I got my guy. Spags is the bridge guy, but at some point they're not going to win the Super Bowl, and it's going to be like, we groomed this guy. Spags going to retire or something, and then there you go.
Yeah. What about the other team? Is it just complete meltdown if they get whooped and they just
so if the 49ers
run it back?
Nah, you run it back. You attack some holes. I mean, if the only way you panic, if you lose this game, and the only way you panic is if Brock Purdy just absolutely sucks. Like, that's the only way you panic. Other than that, if you get torched in the secondary, you can address it. Like, anything else, I think will be addressable and fixable. But if your quarterback just absolutely implodes and sucks, like, that's not something that now, granted, this is first time playing in the Super Bowl, so I wouldn't be totally mad about it. And I'm not saying get rid of Brock Purdy. I'm just saying, like, outside of that, anything can be addressed. You pretty much run it back, address your needs.
See, that's why I think that, like, as much as I say that 49ers have to win this, I think the repercussions aren't as bad for the 49ers, because I think they go, man, that sucked, but we can't change what we're doing. We got to just try this one more time. I don't think
scenario though. They need in a loss. They need Brock Purdy to just play good. Like, he doesn't.
I think
great in a loss, or if he just play good and play how he's been playing, and they just happen to lose, like, you don't feel like there's much you could do.
What if Shanahan blows the lead again? What if Shanahan blows a 21-point lead?
Will you fire him? Like,
I don't know.
Is it fireable at that point though? Because, like, we rode the wave. We've got you all the talent. We've gotten here on multiple occasions. You haven't gotten the job done. You blow a lead again. Like, you did it with the Falcons as the OC, but, like, you blow a lead again. Like, so now what do we really, like, where do we go here? Like, what's the end? Like, what is this?
The opposite of what we said for the Chiefs. Going into the NFC next year is not near as daunting as going into the AFC.
No,
like, they're still the best team. Them and, I mean, the Lions, I guess. Philadelphia, we're going to assume Philadelphia, that was a hiccup, but we don't. If this is the real Hurts and the real Philadelphia, then the 49ers ain't got to worry about them. Cowboys are going to be good, but they haven't been able to.
Like, they're no longer. You're not taking them serious until the playoffs.
So I think you just run it back. Like, you're still the best team in the NFC going into next year. You'll be the favorite in the NFC regardless after this game. So I think you don't have near as many quarterbacks to go through. So I think the 49ers, as miserable as they'll be if they lose, they don't have to make as near as many. A year from now, the Kansas City Chiefs will look more different than the 49ers will a year from now. That's crazy to say, but that's what I predict.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So before we close out, like, we kind of broke down what we thought about this game. We're not going to give score predictions. We're going to leave that for later in the week, probably on a Friday or Saturday heading into the Super Bowl. Maybe if we do one Sunday morning, I know we're still all planning it out, but
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna leave my score prediction for later because I really don't know. Like I'm just kind of waiting for other people to sway me one way or the other. I'm rooting for Kansas City, but I don't know. I think it's a tall task. But I want to talk about some of our most memorable Super Bowls. So like
Let's
kind
do
of
it.
one or two of them. And it's more so not necessarily what to do, what happened on the field. Like if it's one of those, hey, I remember watching this game because I was there, this, it led me to this or whatever. But just like one or two of your most memorable Super Bowls. So Jeff, you're the OG here. You might have some different type of memories and memorize some different type of Super Bowls than I do. So what's one of your favorite Super Bowl memories?
So my number one doesn't change year after year. Anybody's listening to my show right now is rolling their eyes. They know what I'm going to say. It's Doug Williams in Washington stepping up, having the greatest second quarter in the history of pro football, and beating the Denver Broncos and John Elway, the Golden Boy, that's what they called him then, and beating the Golden Boy 42-10. I think it was Super Bowl. I'm terrible at reading those numerals. 22, Super Bowl 22. I know it's crazy. I remember watching it as a kid. The 2 weeks leading up to it, like there's no way I'm glad that this is hard to describe for everybody, but I can't describe enough what it was like to see a black quarterback, let alone in the NFL, but starting a Super Bowl and the talk around it and all the, everybody saying there ain't no way. Like it's hard. It's hard to imagine now considering, how times have changed, but that's how it was. And I was a kid who was like, I don't understand. He's going to do it. So I naturally was like, I'm rooting for the underdog. Like everybody's against this guy. Everybody's telling me he can't do it, blah, blah, blah. I didn't like the Broncos anyway, because I was an AFC kid. And then they come out and I'm watching the game. Broncos go up 10-0. And I'm like, man, like I can't believe I got to watch the Broncos win a Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden the second quarter comes and Timmy Smith and Ricky Sanders and Doug Williams lit up Denver for the best offensive quarter I've ever seen in my life. Everybody was stunned. Everybody had to acknowledge that it did not matter what you looked like at the quarterback position. It mattered how you could play. And then at that time, we're thinking about guys like Warren Moon, who had to go to the Canadian Football League because they wanted him, NFL wouldn't let him play quarterback. They wanted him to play defensive back. Like all these guys got looked over and moved positions or just weren't drafted or just never got a chance. And Doug Williams stepped up there with all that pressure on him and just killed him. And Timmy Smith has 204 yards rushing. Ricky Sanders has almost 200 yards receiving. It's like I just remember being at halftime and being so happy about everything about that game, and just was like, man, I just saw I was right about everything. It's just one of those, you know what I mean? You ever watch a game, Mo, and you're just like, man, I was right, and it just feels good. I was like,
Yeah.
I knew it, and he did it. So. My number one all time will always be Doug Williams and that Washington team and just what it meant. Doug Williams didn't wind up having a Hall of Fame career, but he's an important person. He's a great dude. He wound up being a great coach. Really represented the NFL. Once he got his shot, and people I always said this. I'm like. Minority players, coaches, athletes, whatever you want to say across the board, they don't need help. They don't need anything. Just stop. Just stay out of their way. Like they don't need any extra. They don't need any help. They don't need any of that. Just stay out of their way. And once they let the man play quarterback, he proved it against at that time, John Elway was supposed to win that Super Bowl, hands down. So big deal, great upset, great game, great memories. That was just a fun day. And I can still see it out in California. It's dark at home, but it's daylight out there. And I just remember thinking man, I love this. I love watching this game and I'm having so much fun right now.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could have seen, I wish mine was historical like that. My most memorable is probably Super Bowl 30. Excuse me, Super Bowl 37. When the Tampa Bay Buccaneers whooped the at the time Oakland Raiders. So everybody who know me know now by now. I grew up in Florida. I grew up right across the bridge from Tampa. So we went to church and that was all my mom and dad friends were church people and the kids. You know how that goes. So everybody was Bucks fans. So my dad was a Cowboys fan, but then moved to Florida and started liking the Bucks. So we threw a Super Bowl party. I was a kid, I'm a kid at the time. All us running around outside, then watching. I'm the only kid that's in the room watching the game. It got to be like, hey, you got to be quiet. Like, I'll let you watch the game because I know you care about the game, but you got to be quiet. Like, this is a room full of adults, But yeah, I'll never forget that game. And then the Bucks won, so everybody was so happy. I was a little happy. I was a little Bucks fan, a little bit. And then later on in life, I grew up, felt like a loyalty needed to be drawn. The line needed to be drawn somewhere. And then the Bucks fans started pissing me off. Like, there was no being a Cowboys fan and kind of liking the Bucks because this is where I grow up. This is the hometown team. Now, Bucks fans started pissing me off, so I was just full blown Cowboys. But yeah, and that was an amazing Super Bowl.
That was an ass kicking.
As a kid, like, when it's the team that, like, everybody see, it's a different atmosphere. When it doesn't matter to the naked eye, you might have been like, man, I turned it off third quarter, but like, to be around that environment when the team, everybody's rooting, got their jerseys on, like the team that everybody wants to win is winning the Super Bowl, it's a different type of celebration. Like, it's completely different when you go and, like, if you were to go watch the game with Chiefs fans on Sunday and then they were winning the Super Bowl, like, it'd be a lot different than just sitting there watching it at home. Even if it was like the Chiefs won 52-7, you'd be like, man, I stopped watching it a long time ago. But to see that, like, type of ass kicking with the fans, that everybody's still excited and all into the game, it's a different type of feeling. So yeah, that's probably my most memorable.
That was a great game. That was one of the best defensive performances I ever saw. I like that team. Derek Brooks is still one of my all-time favorite, players in of any sport. That's a great pick. And so I'm gonna piggyback on that real quick and tell you the opposite side of that story. The next year, after Washington, the next year, 1988 season, 1989 Super Bowl 23, there's a little thing called the drive. San Francisco 49ers versus Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I, like you, grew up in that state of Ohio. I lived in the state of Ohio. We had followed these Bengals all season. They were great. Welcome to the jungle. Boomer Esiason, the Icky shuffle. Everything was off the charts. They get to the Super Bowl, a rematch from 1980, I believe, with the 49ers.
Boomer was that dude, though, wasn't he? He was like
Boomer,
that.
No, that team was that dude. Boomer was a legit, like that Bengals team was good. Well, their nose tackle, Tim Crumrye, breaks his leg, a nasty broken leg in the first quarter, kind of took some of the emotion down. But still, the Bengals go into the fourth quarter, they're leading. And keep in mind, Mo, this is an Ohio kid. Like, I wasn't a huge Bengals fan, but just like you, I was like caught up in it. Because that,
yeah, like, so the whole people, team, though, like you have no choice around you as the fans.
And we had one, like, I hadn't seen the Buckeyes win at this point. They weren't like they are now. The Browns had, I didn't care about the Browns. I never really rooted for them, but like, they hadn't won one, obviously. The Bengals hadn't won one. Like, Ohio, like, outside of Cincinnati Reds, and Reds were 2 years away from their next World Series. So it'd been 13 years since they won a World Series. Like, there just wasn't like winning. And so it all culminated in that. And then Joe Montana and Jerry Rice had maybe second greatest. Santonio Holmes is up there too, but one of the greatest offensive wide receiver drives I ever saw. And when John Taylor caught that pass in the back of the end zone, I mean, it was like as great as the game was. And I look back now and I rewatch that game about every year and realize how great it was. It was such a kick in the gut. Like, I was like ready to celebrate with everybody and enjoy it. I'd probably be a Bengals fan to this day, to be honest with you. It probably would have turned me. I might have skipped from Miami that day, but it didn't happen. One of the greatest games I ever watched, but it's another one of those that I remember, like, every second of it, living, dying. My mom's a Bengals fan. I had to sit there and watch her go through that, like, all those memories. But also Jerry Rice was one of my favorite player of all time at that point. So I'm like, I can't deny his greatness and everything that was going on. Just a wonderful game and emotional game. And, but just like you said, a memory that just is just stuck. Like that day and time is just stuck in my head. Yes, I am by far. So those two Super Bowls were back to back, but just like you, man, I was young. I was at that age. It was imprinted on me. And I mean, I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, I would say so. For me, the next one, this one was it hit a little different because it's like, it's the best. It's one of the most memorable ones, but it's like one of the worst ones at the same time. Because it's like the worst Super Bowl I ever watched. The Rams versus Patriots game. What was that in 2019? So that was the game before COVID. The reason that the reason that one hit was that was the first time I had ever threw a Super Bowl party. Like in my life, as an adult, hosting a Super Bowl party, had people over, everything. My daughter, she was almost 1 at the time. So like she wasn't even, she wasn't even 1 year old yet. First time I had ever lived in snow. Like, I've told you about the story of like why it was the worst, but it was cool. But I never hosted. So like I had all my homeboys over. Homeboy brought his wife, kid, it's snowing. I go and pick my homeboy up. He stayed the night, like, because I went and picked him up and then it started snowing real bad. I had never drove in snow. So I'm like, bro, we got to go. And he was like, man, we still got to stop by the liquor store. And I'm like, bro, we got to go home, man. It's snowing, man. I ain't never drove in snow. He like, man, he was from North
Not knowing you wouldn't have missed a thing.
Yeah, but he was from North Carolina. So I'm just thinking like, man, I got to get home before the snow gets too thick because I don't know how to drive in snow. And it's sticking like, Jeff, it's real snow.
This
like,
out in Washington? Out in Washington?
Washington State, yep. So this is real snow. Like it's piling up and it's getting, he want to stop. We go to the liquor store. He said, hey, man, before we get in your car, I want to smoke real quick. Jeff, I'm talking about it's snowing. We sitting at the smoke pit.
You're watching it pile up.
I'm like, man. He's like, bro, we good, bro. People are still on the road. Trust me. I'm like, we might not get home. I'm like, I'm kind of tripping. But even still, like, so it was just like for me as an adult, like it was the first time really being an adult and be able to host a Super Bowl party. You sit back and you just kind of sometimes you look at the moment, you be like, dang, I was able to do that. Like it's like a accomplishment because not everybody could do that. Not everybody had the means to do it. Not everybody has the thought to do it or the love and enjoyment to be able to do something like that. So that one stuck out and then it snowed. So like I said, the game sucked so bad that I think we stopped watching it middle of the fourth quarter and was like, whoever wins, wins. I don't care. And we went outside and ran around in the snow like some big ass.
That's a great story for the most forgettable Super Bowl. That's your most memorable, I think is actually really cool. It says a lot about like sports fans and being,
because I was
random and family and stuff. Like that's cool, man.
And I would have been able to host one prior to that, but it was like, okay, I joined in 2016. So that was like the first time I moved out on my own. Me and my wife got an apartment, never had like not lived with my parents or something. So I'm like, but then I was always gone. So like 2016, I went out in the summer, moved to San Diego. 2017, I'm on deployment for Super Bowl. 2018, I'm on deployment for a Super Bowl. And that was the New England and Philly game. And then the Falcons and Patriots. Like I was on deployment for both of those. So it was like, didn't really get to host nothing for that. And then in 2018, the game in 2018, I was gone anyway, but my wife was about to have my daughter, so there was not going to be no, let's throw.
And then you got Jared Goff.
Yeah. And so like the time that you get Jared Goff and this outstanding Rams and Patriots defense.
The Patriots don't deserve that game. I got to be honest with you. Like they didn't play well enough to win a Super Bowl. I tell you what, I think we should strike that one from the record books. Like what a forgettable.
So like only has 6. Yeah, because that really was like the worst Super Bowl. And then like my other one is like I always talk about it's the Falcons and Patriots when they played. I forget what Super Bowl number it was, but and I always say because for me that was the most racist Super Bowl I've ever witnessed. I was on an aircraft carrier. Rob,
I see.
Rob can attest to this. This was the first time I witnessed modern segregation. So we're on the aircraft carrier. They put a blow up. I'm talking about a big, those big blow up TVs that they do movies in the park. Yeah, they put that in the hangar bay. We go out there. I'm telling you, it's separated. And I'm talking about the middle line. They separated chairs and had a walkway. And I swear to God, it was all the whites and the Patriots fans on one side.
What's crazy though is because
Falcons fans on the other side.
You imagine if that had been
Falcons fan, or you was either white or rooting for the Patriots. That was it.
They wouldn't. Yeah, they wouldn't. They was acting like Michael Vick was still the quarterback, wasn't they? Like they didn't care if it was Matt Ryan. They're like, nope.
Oh, it was like the city of Atlanta. It was the red and black. It was like they're putting on the red and black just means more. It's the Patriots. I'm talking about. It was the first time I seen it. I witnessed modern day segregation.
Yeah.
And then so the Falcons lose. I lose some money. I lose some money. The type I had to break it up. I'm like, hey, I just can't watch all this.
I had to break it up.
I had to break it up with payments. Hey, look, I got it, but I can't watch all this go at once. And neither can my wife. I can't. She can't even call my phone. I can't explain this one. Like,
so, hey, how can you've got to be rooting against Shanahan still? Like you have to be rooting against Shanahan for killing you.
Man, you
know how easy it would have been for the Falcons to win that game.
Do you know, like, so they were winning, and I go at
And it
halftime.
was one. It was
At
one.
halftime, I go to the smoke pit. I see everybody I was out there betting with.
Oh,
Oh,
no.
I need my money, man. Y'all might as well pay me now. This game over with. Da, 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 da. Man, the game ain't over till it. You know, when you're down, you got to, it ain't over till it hit zero. Come find me when it hit zero.
Ooh.
That clock hit zero, Jeff. I got missing. Everybody, they came to where I sleep. Where you at? Where you at? Yeah. Oh, man.
I can imagine.
It was bad. Oh, it was so bad.
Oh, man, that was rough. I
Oh.
remember watching that game, and my wife, of course, it's halftime, and she's like, "I'm going to bed. This is stupid." And I was like, I remember saying, "Not me. I'm watching. I want to watch every second of Brady getting his teeth kicked in. It's about time." And then they got that 2-point conversion, the first one, and I went, "Oh!" As soon as they got it, I went, "Roop." And then when Matt Ryan and them went through 3 passes in a row late, I was like, "This is a wrap. Like, this is over."
Jeff, I had to
Man.
witness, and I just was like, I'm just sitting there, just witnessing. I'm like, oh, I got, man, Jeff, I almost throw up.
Oh, that was awful.
Hey, Jeff,
No, I thought about doing a whole show on just how the Patriots probably should have lost 5 Super Bowls. There's a whole show to be done on how the Patriots. You got Panther, or you got St. Louis couldn't finish the deal, but I'll give them that. That was fair. They got beat, but then you got Carolina kicks the ball out of bounds on the kickoff, gives it up. You got Falcons doing what they do. You got the Philadelphia Eagles and Donovan McNabb who peed down their leg and cost them that one. You got the Seattle Seahawks who couldn't get the ball in from a yard, and like it up and down the board. Now they probably should have won both those Giants Super Bowls, so they probably even out. But I'm just saying, it's weird, man. It's like that, and that all goes back to the point of the Super Bowl. You got to cash in on these chances because you don't know.
Yeah, like you but yeah, before we go, like these dudes may never. Well, okay, Brock Purdy may never come back.
Almost all these dudes won't be back.
Yeah, most of these dudes may never get back. Like, let's be honest, Lamar Jackson might not play in an AFC Championship for 5 years. Like,
Quite
you
possible.
don't know. Like, and it's nothing against Lamar, because I say the same thing about Josh Allen. Say same thing about Joe Burrow. Say
Look
same
at the Bengals. Bengals are already 2 years away.
And you got all these dudes coming. You got and it's all in the AFC. You're on the unfortunate side that, like, but Brock Purdy benefits from that. Your competition right now is Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, and Jalen Hurts. That don't sound that intimidating to me, because Jalen Hurts got there and he balled out too in the Super Bowl, but they didn't win. So but then after this year, I ain't as afraid of going mano-a-mano with Jalen Hurts. I feel like I'm just as good as him. I watched the Cowboys implode. So like, that's just what they do. So why expect anything different? And had they won that game, we was going to make them implode anyway in the NFC Championship. Like, they felt confident in that. So it's like, like, I'm not really too worried. Then the Lions, you're like, at the end of the day, this could be the ultimate success that a franchise like this has. Hard to really build on it when it's the most successful you've ever been. It's not the crap on the Lions. I still think they'll be really good. They're going to be damn good next year. I think they're going to be a playoff team. They probably win their division. They're going to be competing with the Packers, and they're going to be damn good and just as competitive this year as they was last year.
But I was going to say the Packers are coming.
Yeah, don't forget about the Packers. But now you're like, okay, if Jordan Love is for real, maybe that's the guy that could get me mano-a-mano, because like Aaron Rodgers was the type of dude to be able to get a San Francisco quarterback mano-a-mano every time as well. Like, but then they ran into him. Aaron Rodgers did choke a couple times too later on, when he was winning MVPs. But I think that's because he became a little more selfish. But either way, like Brock Purdy's chances of getting back look a lot healthier than Mahomes' chances of getting back.
Yeah, that's
but
a real thing.
Believes he has a higher chance of getting back because this ain't his first rodeo.
And here's what
potential Super Bowl that he could win, and we're saying we're witnessing the GOAT, but he finally has a chance to win and solidify and start. No, we're talking about this, man. This is his fourth time being.
And here's the thing.
Like,
we ain't even seen Mahomes. Like, we ain't even seen Mahomes' good season yet. Like, we ain't even seen the season. That Brady 2007 season. Like, we ain't even seen Mahomes, Jordan 98, where he's like
he hasn't entered his prime yet. Like, he's only been in the league, 7 years, 6 years?
He's about 2 years. He's about 2 years away from probably having the best season we've ever seen a football player have. That'd be my guess. And not because he's not ready, just because that's how it's going to build up, and he's going to be like, all right, it's time to go. He's going to be healthy.
Going into
They're going to get some receivers, and he's going to get a Randy Moss like Brady did and just be like, screw it. Let's just set some records, and it's going to be crazy.
I've won enough up to this point. Let's start.
He's also going to miss some seasons too, because that's just going to happen.
Yeah.
Like it's going to happen.
It sucks, but at some point, like even Brady got hurt. Like even Brady had tore something, and people forget about that. Like you almost forget that Brady had ever got hurt and missed the whole season. And Patriots didn't go to the playoffs, but they went 11-5. That was crazy. That was that in the year the Bucks went 10-6 and didn't go to the playoffs. Those were two of the craziest years of like, man, these were good teams that didn't get to the playoffs at that kind of record. 10-6, 11. 10-6 is a little more understandable because you're more likely at that time back in the day to have multiple, teams at 10-6, but 11-5 and you missed the playoffs. No, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
That talks to that type of year. But yeah, well, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. We appreciate everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
We are definitely, I'm honored to kick off Super Bowl week in Super Week with Off the Ball Network. But as always, I am Mo. Go check out Up in Flames anywhere you can check out your podcast. That is Jeff. Go check out Jeff Needs Sports. You'll be seeing him a lot more this week. Jeff loves this week. Super Bowl week, memory lane, greatest of all time type of arguments and not arguments, but talks and conversations. And this is Jeff's week.
We got most likable teams coming up this week. Most likable Super Bowl teams.
Yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to everything that we're going to get cracking this week.
None of them going to be the Patriots.
Not a single one of them. But we appreciate everybody for tuning in. We appreciate everybody for listening. We'll catch you tomorrow with another show.